In this video, let's look at one way of classifying types of events. We'll do this by an example. Let's again toss two coins. This is the sample space that we get. We can have two heads. The first one is heads, the second one is heads, or both of them is tails. So when you have tossed two coins and when you see this sample space, let me know what you think about these events. The first one is having 14 heads. The second one is having 9 tails. And let me add one more. 0 heads and 0 tails. So you don't get heads and you don't get tails. What do you think about these three events? Well, you might think about these events and say that that's not possible. From these 4 sample points, how will you get these events? You can't. You can never have 14 heads. At max, you can only have 2. You can never have 9 tails. Again, at max, you can have only 2. Which you're thinking is probably right. These events are called impossible events. A neat definition of impossible events, the events that can never occur. What about these events? The first one is having 0 or more heads. The second one is having less than 10 heads. And let me add one more. At most 2 tails. What do you feel about these three? Well, if you think about them, having 0 or more heads, that's going to happen. 0 or more means 0, 1, 2. Either you'll have 0 heads or 1 heads or 2. In all 3 cases, you'll have 0 or more heads. So no matter what you do, you'll always have this event happening. So this is 100% guaranteed. This event will always occur. What about the next one? Having less than 10 heads. That's pretty comfortable. The maximum number of heads that you can have is 2. And 2 is always going to be less than 10. So again, no matter what you do, you'll always have less than 10 heads. So this event is always going to happen. And what about the last one? At most 2 tails? Well, it's the same logic. You can never have more than 2 tails. At most, you can have only 2 tails. That's also always going to happen. So these events are called sure events. Alright, now that we have the definitions sorted, let's practice. I'm going to list down a number of events and you're going to tell me which of the events are impossible, that means they're never going to happen, and which of them are sure, that means they're always going to happen. So here's the list. The first one is getting a 7 on a single die throw. A die has 6 sides, each side has a number from 1 to 6. So getting a 7 on a single die throw. The next one, tossing a coin twice and getting 2 heads in a row. Getting a sum of less than 13 on rolling a pair of dice. A pair means having 2 dice. Tossing a coin 1000 times and getting all of them as heads. Getting a pink ball from a bag of black and white balls. Getting a pink ball from a bag of pink balls. Getting an integer less than 7 on a single die throw. Getting a sum of 24 on 4 dice throws. And the last one, getting a sum of 25 on 4 dice throws. So, a number of examples. Pause the video, think about all of them. Which of them are impossible, which of them are sure. Alright, let's do them together. Let's look at the first one. Getting a 7 on a single die throw. Well, you can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. You can never get 7, which means this is never going to happen. So this is an impossible event. Let's look at the next one. Tossing a coin twice and getting 2 heads in a row. Well, you can try it. You can toss a coin twice and sometimes you will get 2 heads in a row. But then there are other times when you won't get 2 heads in a row. You might get a head and then the next one has a tail. Or you can get 2 tails. So this is not impossible, but this is also not sure. So you can't put this in the impossible bucket and you also can't put this in the sure bucket, which means this is neither impossible nor sure. Let's look at the next one. Getting a sum of less than 13 on rolling a pair of dice. 13 is a big number. If you roll a pair of dice, the maximum sum that you can get is 12. That's 6 and 6. So you can get sums from 2 to 12, but you can never get 13. And all of these numbers are less than 13. This means your sum will always be less than 13. So this is a sure event. Alright, let's move to the next one. Tossing a coin 1000 times, and that's going to be very tiring, but tossing a coin 1000 times and getting all of them as heads. Seems impossible, but is it really impossible? In a rare scenario, on a very, very lucky day, you might get all of them as heads. It's not impossible. It's highly unlikely. It's very hard, very difficult, very tricky, very challenging, but it's not impossible. So we can't put this under the impossible bucket. But is it a sure event? Will you always get 1000 heads in a row? You can get so many other combinations. So this is also not a sure event. So we'll have to skip this one and move to the next one. Getting a pink ball from a bag of black and white balls. Well, if the bag has black and white balls, how will we get a pink ball? This seems like an impossible event. Alright, I think we're getting the hang of these events, impossible and sure events. Let's finish the last four. Getting a pink ball from a bag of pink balls. Well, if all the balls are pink, we'll always get a pink ball. So this is a sure event. Getting an integer less than 7 on a single die throw. Something we have discussed above. We'll always get an integer less than 7. All the integers from 1 to 6 are less than 7. So this seems like a sure event. What about the last two? Getting a sum of 24 on 4 dice throws. How will we get 24? Looks like a big number. What if we get all of them as 6? So if we have 4 6s, 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6, that's 24. So it's not impossible. On a very lucky day, we might get 24. But it's also not 100% guaranteed. We might get smaller numbers. We might get 10, 20, etc. So we'll have to skip this one. What about the last one? Getting a sum of 25 on 4 dice throws. Well, we got 24 on our lucky day. Can we get 25? Well, we can't get 25 because we can't get a number more than 6. And we have 4 6s for 24. For 25, we need at least a 7, which is not possible. This means getting a sum of 25 is not possible. It's an impossible event. Alright, this was fun. I hope you understood the difference between impossible and sure events. And one key thing to note here is that some events are neither impossible nor sure. They're just events.